Rogers TV. Well, welcome to Gale Force Wins on Rogers TV. It is an absolute pleasure to be bringing you stories of inspiration from people that are doing really cool things. I'm Alan Dale. With me, as always, my good buddy from the East End of St. John's, Jerry Carew.
We're excited to have you come along on this journey. If you haven't experienced Gale Force Wins, W-I-N-S, before, then you're in for a treat. The people that we have on this show are inspirational.
And welcome to another edition of Gale Force Wins. I'm Alan Dale. With me, as always, my good buddy from the East End of St. John's, where we are right now, Jerry Carew. How are you, Jerry?
I'm absolutely fantastic, Alan. Obviously, we are in an incredibly beautiful place, and I'm extremely excited. I'm always inspired by entrepreneurs, and we are sitting with a gentleman that has created one amazing business, so I can't wait to learn where he came from and how he did it.
Well, absolutely, Jerry. Here we are. We're in the atrium of Lane's Retirement Village in the East End of St. John's, up at Airport Heights. 3-story waterfall, baby grand piano behind me. Couldn't be a more beautiful place, but more beautiful than the scenery are the staff and the residents here. It really feels good when you walk in this door, and I can't wait to get into this conversation as well. So Barry, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself?
Okay, my name is Barry Lane, and I grew up in a place called Windsor, Grand Falls, and back in 1978, I was working in Halifax, and I should tell you a little bit of my family. There was 7 of us siblings, my mom and my dad, Vernon and Alvina Lane, and we did move to the East Coast back in '69, I believe it was, and my father worked on the East Coast, and we began to build our lives here. At the age of 16, I left home. Went to Halifax, got myself a job, and when I was 18, the company I worked with came to me one day and said, "Would you like to have a week's vacation to go to Newfoundland?" I said, "Sure." "What do you want?" They said, "We have a 9200 computer that needs to be put in the Confederation building, and nobody down there knows how to do this, so we want you to go down and do it for us." I came home, and I'm telling you this for a reason. I came home and I put the computer in, and I went to visit one of my friends, and he said, "There's a young lady that works in the seniors home, and I think you should meet her." I said, "No, I don't think so." I said, "I'm only home for a week and I'm gone again." And he said, "Well," he said, so I did. I picked up the phone and I called her, and a blind date, never seen her before, and so I asked her, would she like to go out for lunch? And she said, "Sure." And the two of us went out for lunch. 7 months later, I was married. And like I said, she worked in the seniors home. She loved working with seniors. And I told her, one day I'm going to build you a seniors home, and you're going to have a home of your own. It took some time. I think see now, see if I can get my dates right. It was 98, I'm sorry. 1998, we decided to change careers. I was a clergy for a number of years, and I decided to look for a seniors home. I looked in the papers, and finally I found 2, and one I was interested in, which was Old Perdigan. And we decided that we would purchase Old Perdigan Seniors Home. We called it Luxury Village. Once we purchased it, we had 13 residents, and it was tough going for 6 months, and we were new on the block, and we kept, renovating and working hard and working with the people, the community, and they were really good to us. And I have to say that my wife was really dedicated. I called her the hero of the business. You know, she was amazing. She treated the residents like they were her home. And we never did any advertising in all the years of operation. We didn't have to. Our motto was that our seniors would advertise for us. You look after them and you care for them proper. Our motto was quality, care, and comfort. And we strove to give the best that we had to give. And I have to say we were there for a number of years, and it came time to leave. But when we did leave, we built on 2 extensions. We had 39 residents in the building at the time we left, and we could only take 40. You know, so we were down 1 resident. So she was really the one that looks after the residents, and I looked after the building, and we moved up. We built another one in Victoria, and then we built in Carbonaire. Then we built in Winterden, or we bought in Winterden, I should say. We also went to Waitaway. We went to Gander Bay, South Farm. We built a new one in Botwood. We built a new one in Fort Saunders. And we just loved the business. And I always say that seniors are the most loyal people that's left. They're going to respect you and treat you well. And my wife, lots of times she'd bring home, you know, like such and such a person passed today, and she just used to take it to heart like it was her own, you know, her family that had passed. And I remember folks in some communities, one community in particular, where somebody brought a garbage bag in with the clothes for the individual, dropped the garbage bag, never to come back again to visit their loved one. And my wife would take to them. She would really make sure they had clothing, and you know, even she had a conversation with the undertaker. You know, I need coverage for these precious people that had no funeral arrangement. And before you know it, their funeral would be paid for. And, you know, she would make sure every month so much was paid on the funeral. And, you know, nobody wants to leave their own home. You know, they love their own home. Back those days when we started, the home was like an institution. And you really didn't want to go there, like, you know, unless you really had to, so to speak. But all that changed over the years. I remember one time we had this lady come in, and she had 7 daughters. And she said, she was really upset. She said, I'm here with 7 daughters, and no one would look after me. And we took her, and she was a bit difficult on the first of it, we got to say. But I remember one evening, all the girls came in and they stood around the bed and they said, Mom, how are you doing? Don't go talking, girl. I should have been here 20 years ago. You know, but a few weeks prior to that, she said, don't belong here, so to speak. But, you know, we've seen story after story. My wife, we had people with alcohol problems, and you know, she had a way of dealing with them. You know, one guy would come and say, how about a drink? You know, and didn't like to get a bath, didn't like to get a shower, you know. And she would say, you go up and get your wash, be cleaned up, and we'll give you a drink. And but you know, we had some homes that drink flowed freely, and of course it wasn't allowed in the public like that, you know. And we didn't mind administering the drink, and you know, and they could handle it, and so on and so forth. But yeah, care was a big thing, and my wife was the one that really shined through all that. All I done was the hammer and nail and you know, organizing to purchase a place. But she looked after staffing. She looked after all the government forms and all the residents themselves, and, which was a big part of this, you know. And we were going on, just building and growing, and then we were approved for 2 more facilities, one in St. Anthony and one in Pasadena when she got diagnosed with cancer. And of course that brought a whole different perspective on everything, you know. So our boys were in college. The 2 older boys were away. One was in Springfield, Missouri. The other one was in Manitoba, I believe. And I started selling off some of the facilities and knew we couldn't go on like this, you know. And I had some quality of life that for my wife. And so we contacted them and said, look, you know, if you want to come home and try this, we'd love for you to. But if you don't like it, you can pursue your careers again and move on. And so they came home and they fell in love with it as well. And I mean, you've got to fall in love with it because you're dealing with the best people in the world, you know, the seniors, you know, and they are very, very loyal and for the most part, you know, really good to get along with and appreciate what you do for them, you know. And that makes a big difference when you're doing this. So they take it and brought it to a whole new level, as you can see here, and
Amazing.
Which is great, you know, what they're doing. And we wish them well. We hope that they keep going. I'm just on the sidelines looking on now. I lost my wife 3 years ago, and that was very difficult. And my boys called me and said, Dad, would you like to come back to work? And I said, no, I think they're better off paying me to stay out of it. You guys are doing things a lot different than I'm doing now. And I have my day, and but I do, you know, I'm always accessible. They want me for different things. They're always calling me and saying. And my wife, before she passed, because I used to tell them, no, don't call Mom anymore. Don't say anything to Mom because, you know, she got enough on her plate. But she used to say to me, you go help the boys. They need you, you know, and they're doing a good work. And so as you can see, they put Sheila's diner here, and they remember her. They know the roots, you know, where they came from. And I got to say, my sons, they all started right from the grassroots down, you know, cleaning the floors and in the kitchen and a bit of everything. You know, they learned it the hard way, and I think they've done well. You know. Yeah.
You promised your wife 1. You said, I promise you 1.
Yeah, that's
How
right.
many did you wind up with?
I wound up with 9 and 2 more to dispose the bill, but I didn't do it, you know. Yeah, and we were quite busy, flat out all the time, and but the journey was so worth it, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, so worth it.
You said that the home has changed over the years. Did you have a hand in changing the way it is
Well,
here in Newfoundland?
I had to say my wife did, yes, because I remember 1998 when we started, the government wanted to legislate sprinkler systems for, you know, for fire safety and so on and so forth. And we were one of the ones that really stood out and said, look, you know, this is important. We took a lot of heat, a lot of criticism for that. But we felt it was a big tear up for a lot, especially the existing homes. But it was well worth the safety. You know, nobody wants a home to burn and lose residents to fire. It would be an awful thing. So we took a nice bit of criticism for that, and we did try to take away the institutional look and to try and make it more like a residence. My wife used to always say, if it's not as good as my home, it's not good enough. And she said, I got my home comfortable and the way I want it. And these residents deserve the same thing. And we strove to You know, it might seem a bit humorous when I say that she arranged their funerals. Lots of times my boys were smaller and there was a funeral going on. And you got to understand, a lot of these people had no families. They had nobody to care for them. And they were with us. And my son would look in the funeral home in the casket and say, "Dad, is that your jacket?" You know, have they got a jacket like yours? And we took the clothes off our back and we gave it to our seniors. They were family. They were our family, you know. And my wife always strove to give them the best quality of life and the best send-off, you know, whatever was the case. She was there to care for them right to the end, you know. And I can't say it was all without challenges. There was lots of challenges, you know. I remember the first home that we started. We had the money to buy the place, or the financing to buy it, but we had no money for groceries the first month operation. And I said to my wife, "What are we going to do? You know, we're into this business now, and we got no money for groceries." I remember I went to the post office and I got this credit card application in the mail. It said, "Sign there, you have $5,000. That's when I went and bought groceries at her, you know. And we started there, and we just kept snowballing and building our business, and we got a lot to be thankful for, you know. But it wasn't without challenges, but we did get through them.
It sounds pretty amazing.
Yeah.
First of all, I want to stay on topic of your wife. What was your wife's name?
Sheila.
Sheila sounds like quite an amazing person.
Yeah, she was an amazing person.
Yeah. Her compassion and your compassion for the residents of the homes that you built over time is remarkable. And it permeates to this day down to the staff here.
Yeah. There's no other way around it, only to say that she was just an amazing lady with a vision for seniors. And no matter when she spoke to them or with them or for them, she was on their side and done an amazing. And I keep telling my boys that without her, this wouldn't be what it is, you know. She's the one that passed the compassion along to her sons and myself, and like I said, they're continuing her legacy, and they know that it's all because of their mom, you know. Yeah, their dad is just a byproduct.
You were just swinging a hammer.
Yeah, that's it.
I think you'll probably do more than that.
Yeah. Yeah, we used to do it all. Sometimes we'd be in the kitchen, sometimes we'd be on the floors. We just did it all together, like, you know, the two of us. Especially Saturdays, I would make a pot of soup for the seniors, and they loved to see me in the kitchen and doing something like that, knowing that that's not my profession, but it was, you know, it was good to be involved with them.
Barry, sorry, Alan, a lot of men, you know, will say to their wives, "I promised to mow the lawn, I promised to do the dishes." Not a lot of men promise to buy a home like you did.
Yeah.
And let me ask you this. Prior to 1998, what business background did you have to give you, I guess, the guts to pull the trigger?
Yeah. Well, I was manager of the dairy industry for Central and Western Newfoundland. And first I had my own distributorship. I had 3 trucks on the road, and I used to buy from the dairies and resell myself. And then they asked me would I take over the business in Central and Western. So I did. I remember they had, I think it was 5 trucks. And the time I finished with them, we had 38 trucks on the road. And I felt like I wanted to go in the ministry. So I went in the ministry for several years, and before that I used to have a hardware store in Twinegate called Champion Charlie's, And so I meddled with a few things, and I always loved business. And so I said to my wife one day, I got up and I said, I think we're going to do something different in life. And she said, what? I said, remember I told you I was going to get you a senior's home? Yes, she said. I think the time has come. And so that's where it just started from there, and we just grew it, like, you know. But it grew fast. It went really fast, and we had a job really to keep up with staffing and everything, you know. And but like I said, that was her good fortune that she looked after all the staff.
Alan, I just want to follow up. Like, it grew fast. Was there ever a time you felt overwhelmed? Like, I'm overwhelmed just listening to your story, frankly.
Yeah, well, I did get overwhelmed when, I think the overwhelming came when she was diagnosed with cancer.
Yeah.
That really set us back, and you know, it was hard that, because, you know, we've seen a lot of people go through stuff, dealing with seniors and at the close of their life and so on and so forth. But when it comes on your own plate, and we weren't old by any means, you know, but it was time to rethink things, and that's when the boys came in, and we just, you know, sort of backed away. I missed it dearly. She didn't want me to give up, but I knew it was important for her sake to give up and give her some quality of life before she left us, like, you know. Yeah. She never complained. She was never a person to complain about anything. I remember when I talked to her about business, and I had a plan in my mind, and she said, well, she said, I can't see it, but she said, go for it. You think you can do it? You never stood in my way for anything in business or whatever I wanted to do. She always said, yeah, well, you go for it, and I'm with you, you know, which was great.
It's amazing to have that support, isn't it?
It is, yeah.
Can't really get through life without that.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Tell me about your journey into the ministry. What drove that?
Well, I guess I grew up in a home that was a harsh environment, and really heartbreaking. My father was an alcoholic, and we had a lot of pain that I really, you know, was really hard to bring out. Long story short, my mom and dad broke up because of alcohol and so on and so forth, and abuse and what have you. And I always thought if I ever had a family, I want to do things a little differently than my father did. I remember one time my father asked me, he was the highest paid man in our community, chief engineer, drunk almost every evening, but never missed a day's work in his life that I know of. And when our mother left us, and my oldest sister quit school to look after us, it was a harsh environment, really hard environment. I remember one day he come home from work, and he asked me if the wood was in. I said, no, not yet. And he asked me if the water was in. Now, we logged water, and we logged wood. And he was the highest paid man in our community. But he was also a slave to the bottle, you know. He just couldn't shake it whatsoever. And he would beat me until I peed my clothes, you know. And one day he went to beat me, and he said, I'm going to give you marks to take to your grave. That was his words he'd say to me. And after I saw him panting for breath, I knew. I was 15 years old. I was hardy. I used to do a lot of chores. I grabbed him, and I put him up in the corner, and I said, Father, if you ever lay a hand on me again, so I'm going to make away with you. I was at wit's end. I couldn't take it no longer. And he never hit me from that day on. And he would get in my face, he would bawl, he would scream, but he would never hit me. And one day when I was living in Halifax, I got a call from my father. And long story short, my dad and mom got back together. She had a car accident, had her 2 legs broke, her 2 arms, all her ribs were broke, and she was in the hospital for 13 months. And never to walk again, that's what they told her. Anyway, they made up, got back together, not without my father one day made a change in his life. And he called me one day and he said, "Barry, you should come home. Things are a lot different here now." And he was. He changed. His life changed completely. And when I started a family, I thought, you know, I want to be like that. Lots of times I used to go out and on a weekend and get drinking a little too much. And one day I realized, you know, I was becoming the monster my father was. And I don't need this, you know. And I made a change in my life. I got converted. And then I felt to go into ministry. So I did. I done all my courses to correspondence for ministerial courses. And then I applied for credentials and went in ministry. And we had a wonderful, wonderful time in ministry and so on and so forth. And I just felt that one day this was the time to move on and say, okay, now we're going to do something that I promised you a long time ago. We're going to buy a senior's home or build a senior's home. And even before I went to ministry, I had land purchased in Twinegate, and I was going to build our first home. And I sold that while I was in the ministry, matter of fact. So that was a little tent before we went, you know. So, and I got to say, our first home, Hope Hurricane, the community and Hope Hurricane and Beatty Bird and the surrounding communities, they really, really rallied with us and supported us. And it was amazing, amazing journey. And we just kept going from community to community like that, you know, and it was great, yeah.
Barry, you touched on how important seniors are and how special seniors are. Tell me about that.
Well, we know what kind of a day and age we're living in, and it's hard to find people that are loyal and committed, and